Imagine feeling utterly alone, even when the man who promised to love you forever is sleeping right beside you. That was my life. Every night I'd lie awake in the grand, echoing house my husband Amika brought me to after our whirlwind wedding, listening to his quiet breathing. He was so close, yet he felt miles away. He hadn't touched me, not a hug, not a held hand, not even a brush of fingers, since the day we moved in. The silence between us wasn't peaceful. It was thick and heavy, like a storm cloud ready to burst. I felt invisible, like a ghost haunting my own marriage. What had I done wrong? Was I not pretty enough? Not kind enough? The questions gnawed at me, turning my hope into a cold, hard lump of confusion in my chest. Then one Tuesday morning, searching for a lost earring under his pillow, my fingers brushed against something smooth and stiff. It wasn't the earring, it was a photograph of a woman I'd never seen before. Her eyes bright and full of life, her smile capturing the sun. She was beautiful, radiant, and she was hidden beneath the pillow where my husband laid his head every night. My heart didn't just sink, it plunged into icy water. This wasn't just a picture. This was the reason for the miles between us in our bed. This was the ghost haunting our marriage before I ever knew her name. Who was she? Why was her picture here? And why did Amika cling to her like a secret treasure, pushing me away? That photograph burned in my hand. It felt alive, pulsing with secrets. I stared at it until the woman's face swam before my eyes. Nenena. He'd whispered her name once in his sleep, a sound so full of pain it had woken me. Now I knew who haunted him. But why hide her picture? Why marry me if his heart was buried with her? The questions swirled, frantic and loud in the quiet room. Driven by a desperate need to understand the man I'd married, I began to search our room, the house. Emika was at work. The echoing halls belonged to me and the ghost of Nena. I felt her presence then, not as fear, but as a heavy sadness clinging to the velvet curtains. The polished wood, the very air. It was in the spare room, the one Amika always kept locked, saying it was just storage, full of old, fragile things. The key, I remembered with a jolt, was hidden inside an old, hollowed-out book in his study, a place he thought I never looked. My hands trembled as I turned the key. The lock clicked, a sound unnaturally loud in the silent house. The door creaked open, releasing a cloud of dust motes dancing in a single shaft of sunlight. This wasn't storage, this was a shrine. Stepping into Nena's room was like stepping into a bubble of frozen time. Her perfume, light and floral, still hung faintly in the air, mixed with the scent of old paper and dust. Sunlight streamed through a gap in heavy curtains, illuminating a perfectly preserved space. A dressing table held bottles of lotion, a hairbrush tangled with dark strands that weren't mine. Clothes hung neatly in the closet, vibrant dresses, delicate blouses. Books sat stacked on a nightstand beside a framed picture of her laughing with Amika, his arm around her, his eyes alight with a joy I'd never seen directed at me. My chest tightened until it hurt. This wasn't just grief, this was preservation. He hadn't moved on. He'd trapped her here and trapped me with her. Tears blurred my vision as I traced a finger over the dust on her dressing table. How long had he been living this double life? How could he bring me here, into her sanctuary? The unfairness of it choked me. I sank onto the edge of her neatly made bed, the floral bedspread soft beneath me, feeling like an intruder in my own home. That's when I heard the soft click of the front door. Amika was home early. Panic seized me. I scrambled to my feet, knocking over a small perfume bottle on the dresser. It didn't break, but the clatter echoed like a gunshot in the silent room. Footsteps hurried down the hall, stopping abruptly at the open doorway. I turned around slowly. Emeka stood framed in the doorway, the light from the hall casting his face in shadow. But I didn't need light to see the shock, the guilt, the sheer panic etched there. His face was pale as chalk. His eyes, usually warm brown, were dark hollows, like he hadn't slept properly in weeks, maybe months. He looked haunted, ravaged. For what felt like an eternity, we just stared at each other across the gulf of Nena's perfectly preserved room. The silence wasn't just quiet, it was deafening, suffocating, filled with the whispers of the past and the weight of all the words we'd never dared to speak. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I felt cold, numb. Why? My voice was a raw whisper, scraping against the thick silence. Why did you hide this room from me? He didn't answer immediately. He stepped inside, moving like a man underwater, and slowly closed the door behind him, shutting us in with Nena's ghost. He walked past me, the scent of his cologne mingling uneasily with hers, and sank heavily onto the velvet chair beside her dressing table. He placed both hands on his head, fingers digging into his hair, and let out a long, shuddering breath that sounded like it came from the depths of his soul. I waited, my heart pounding against my ribs, the tremors running up my arms. "Emika," I said louder now, forcing the words out. "Why? Why did you marry me?" He slowly raised his head. His eyes weren't just hollow, they were glistening, wet with unshed tears. "I was tired, Adiora," he said, his voice rough and quiet, barely more than a murmur. "Tired of what?" I pressed, needing to hear the truth, no matter how much it hurt. "Tired of crying," he admitted, his gaze drifting around the room, touching her things. "Tired of waiting for the pain to stop, for the memories to fade. Tired of being alone in this huge, empty house, surrounded by her things, smelling her perfume, hearing her voice in my head, even when it was silent." He shuddered. I thought if I got married, started again, maybe she would go away. Maybe the silence would just be silence again." I stared at him, the words hitting me like physical blows. The burning in my chest flared into a wildfire. "So I was a replacement?" The word tasted like ash. He flinched, shaking his head vehemently. "No, Adaura, no. You are kind. You are warm. You are strong in ways I admire. I liked you. I still do." "Liked?" I echoed, the past tense slicing through me. "I tried, Adaura," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "I tried so hard to love you properly, to be the husband you deserved, to let go of her, to bury the past. But Nena, she's still here." The way he said it, with such desperate certainty, sent a new kind of chill down my spine. My mouth felt parched, desert dry. "What do you mean she's still here?" I whispered, dreading the answer. He looked up at me then, slowly, and for the very first time since I'd met the charming, confident Emika, I saw raw, unadulterated fear in his eyes. It was primal, chilling. "I hear her, Adaura," he confessed, his voice dropping to a terrified whisper. "Sometimes, late at night, in this house, not just in my dreams. Her voice, she cries." I took an involuntary step back, bumping against the bed. "She cries?" He nodded, his eyes wide and fixed on some point in the distance, beyond the walls. "She begs me," he continued, his voice trembling. "Asks me why I let it happen, why I didn't protect her, why I wasn't there." He swallowed hard, the sound loud in the stillness. Sometimes I wake up, and her side of the bed, my old bed, it's damp, cold and damp, like tears." I couldn't breathe. The room, already filled with the past, suddenly felt unbearably small, the walls pressing in, the air thick with the scent of decay and sorrow. The beautiful shrine now felt like a tomb. "And you brought me here?" I asked, my voice rising with disbelief and anger. "Into this house? To sleep in your bed? With all this surrounding us?" He buried his face in his hands. "I thought I was ready," he mumbled, his words muffled. "I thought, if I married you, started a new life, maybe her spirit would find peace. Maybe she'd stop visiting me. Maybe the crying would stop." His shoulders began to shake. "But she died angry, Adaura. So angry. The accident, it was so sudden. We'd argued that morning. Terrible things said." His voice broke completely. "And I've never stopped feeling her anger. It's like ice in my bones." Then the dam broke. Emika, my strong, distant husband, wept. Not silent tears, but great, heaving sobs that racked his entire body. He cried like a man whose soul was shattered, whose grief was a bottomless ocean threatening to drown him. He wept for Nena, for his guilt, for the life he couldn't have and the life he'd trapped me in. I stood frozen, cold and numb to my core, watching the man I called my husband come undone in the ghostly sanctuary of his dead wife. Everything I thought I knew, his quiet strength, his thoughtful gestures, our future, it all crumbled to dust. I thought I was building a home, a life filled with love, but I was wrong. I wasn't building a home. I was living inside a grave, sharing my bed with a ghost and a man haunted beyond repair. The raw sound of his grief filled the small room, a painful counterpoint to the suffocating silence that had preceded it. I didn't move towards him. I couldn't. My limbs felt like lead, my heart encased in ice. The air grew colder, much colder than the air-conditioned chill Amika usually kept. My breath started to mist faintly in the dim light. Mika's sobs hitched. He felt it too. He lifted his tear-streaked face, his eyes darting nervously around the room. That's when we heard it, a loud, jarring bang. It came from the living room directly below us. The sound was unmistakable. Something heavy, like a piece of furniture or a large frame picture, hitting the floor with force. Emeka froze mid-sob, his bloodshot eyes snapping wide open. He wiped his face roughly with the back of his hand, his gaze fixed on the closed door of Nena's room, then flicking back to me. You heard that?" he whispered, his voice hoarse with fear. I could only nod, my throat tight. The silence rushed back in, thicker, more menacing than before. Then another sound, softer this time, distinct. Tap, 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 like footsteps, but not the hurried steps Amika had made earlier. These were slow, deliberate, measured, coming from the hallway outside the room, getting closer. Tap, tap, tap. Each step sent a fresh wave of icy dread through me. Amika slowly stood up from the chair, his face draining of what little color it had left. His eyes were wide with pure terror, fixed on the door handle. It began to turn, slowly, silently, smoothly. Amika's whisper was barely audible, choked with disbelief. But I locked that door." Instinctively, without thought, I grabbed his hand. His fingers were ice cold, trembling as violently as mine. We stood together, rooted to the spot in Nena's room, staring at the brass doorknob as it completed its slow rotation. We held our breath. The turning stopped. An agonizing silence stretched, thin and taut as a wire. Then, knock. A single sharp rap on the wood. Knock. A second, firmer. Knock. A third, heavy and final. Someone, or something, was standing right outside the locked door of the dead woman's room, knocking. And we knew, with a chilling certainty that froze the blood in our veins, that no living person we were expecting could be on the other side. The sound of those 3 knocks echoed in the silence long after they faded, vibrating in the air like a struck bell. Emeka's hand crushed mine, his breath coming in short, ragged gasps. My own heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the terrifying quiet. Who was out there? Was it Nena, her spirit no longer content with tears and whispers, demanding entry into her preserved world? Or was it something else, drawn by the raw grief and guilt saturating the house? The locked door felt terrifyingly thin, flimsy protection against the unseen presence on the other side. The cold deepened, biting through my clothes. The faint scent of Nena's perfume suddenly intensified, cloying and sweet, mixing with a new, unsettling smell, like ozone before a storm, or wet earth. Emeka slowly, silently, pulled me back, away from the door, deeper into the room, towards the curtained window. His eyes never left the door handle. The knocking had stopped, but the waiting felt worse. The silence now was alive, pulsing with unseen menace. We were trapped in a shrine to the past, with the ghost of that past, or something far more terrifying, demanding to be let in. What happens next? Do we open the door? Do we stay frozen in terror? Does the lock hold? The answers lie shrouded in the chilling silence of that house, a silence broken only by the frantic beating of 2 terrified hearts. Our hearts. Will Emeka finally face the ghost of his guilt? Will I find the strength to fight for my own place in this haunted story? The ending is still being written. This journey into love, loss, and the chilling unknown gripped you, didn't it? That tightness in your chest as Adora found the picture, that icy dread when the knocking started. That's the power of a story that touches our deepest fears and longings. We all carry ghosts, past loves, old regrets, hidden pains. Adora and Emeka's struggle feels real because echoes of it live in us too. Did this story haunt you? Did you feel the chill in Nena's room? What do you think is on the other side of that door? Share your theories, your chills, your own experiences with the echoes of the past in the comments below. Your voice matters. Let's unravel this mystery together. Want more stories that grip your heart and send shivers down your spine? Stories about real emotions, hidden secrets, and the courage to face the unknown? Then hit that subscribe button. You'll get new, immersive tales delivered straight to you. Stories that make you feel, wonder, and maybe sleep with the light on. Don't miss the next chapter of the unexpected. Know someone who loves a story with depth, suspense, and a touch of the supernatural? Someone who needs to feel seen, understood, or just enjoy a really good spooky tale? Share this script with them. Spread the chills, the feels, and the discussion. Let's build a community where stories like Adora and Emeka's are told, heard, and deeply felt. Like this story? Give it a thumbs up. Every like tells me you want more stories like this. Raw, emotional, suspenseful journeys that stay with you long after the last word. Your support helps create more adventures into the heart of human experience. Subscribe, share, like, comment. Your action right now keeps these stories alive. Don't let the silence win. Let's find out what happens next, together.